What is your coaching philosophy, and do you formally write it down?
I don't formally write it down. I think my coaching philosophy is just to improve the players at all times without kind of losing sight of it being fun. Like, because it's for 16 to 19-year-olds, they do need to enjoy it. Obviously, people do drop out. So if you're drilling them too much, I've seen lots of coaches absolutely blitz 16 to 19-year-olds, and then they leave school, leave college, and then they drop out of rugby because they didn't really like it. So try to progress them as much as I can, try and make them learn, but it's not fundamentally on absolutely blitzing. If they're getting something wrong, then we can always go back to it, as opposed to drilling them into the ground and saying, oh, like, you know, you're doing all this wrong, and stopping the whole session. Just kind of a happy mix between making it fun and helping them learn as well, and keeping them in rugby.
Okay, so would you apply that to elite level players as well?
No. Elite would be completely different. You can kind of drill them as much as you want. Typically they're there to learn. So in some of the areas that I do work with elite 16 to 19-year-olds, and then you can literally blitz them and bring them back. They're not learning the skill. You can pick them out. You can say, you know, you're not doing this right. Everyone else was wrong. So, but kind of the areas that I mostly work in, 16 to 19, if you adopted the same approach, it would be completely different. You'd lose loads of players.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a reason why you don't write it down?
I don't really tend not to write my session plans down, so I wouldn't be writing it down. I'd have a rough idea in my head, but me as a coach, I tend to plan everything in my head anyway, and go out there without a kind of formal session plan or a coaching philosophy in place. However, I have a firm idea of what how I want the session to run and what the outcomes would be.
Okay. All right. How does your coaching philosophy affect the content of your training sessions?
Again, so when they have to enjoy the sessions, because obviously I work with college athletes mainly between 16 and 19 years old. We're not at the top of the pecking order in terms of our rugby players. It's more of a kind of a glorified enrichment programme as opposed to elite athletes. Hopefully in a few years that will change, but at the moment it's kind of, you've got to keep them involved in rugby. It'd be very much kind of the developmental end of the RFU plan. So my sessions will be a mix of fun stuff, a mix of how they can learn and putting it together. Don't want like people walking away from the session like not enjoying it. They'll have areas to work on, but fundamentally I want them to start the session saying, all right, maybe I can't pass very well with my left hand, and by the end of the session, if it's working on passing, they'll be a little bit better, and maybe some ideas they can go away with and come back. Getting them to keep coming back is obviously the issue they have at college rugby. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any sort of specific examples you could give of a type of practice or a type of session that you would do to meet your coaching philosophy?
Yeah. Say, for example, like if it was a kicking session, you just get them to obviously simple drill, stand in pairs, kick to each other, and then put that into some kind of game-related practice. So they would move from kicking in pairs, do maybe a couple of different types of kick, maybe like an up and under and a spiral kick, and that's it. And they could move into a game where the kind of the basis of them is to improve their kicking technique with a little bit of pressure. That'll kind of have them all doing it at once. They're not watching each other so much. Obviously, like, you're going to get the forwards that aren't going to be so good at kicking, and they don't really want to be singled out as having bad kicking techniques. It's not as important in their game.
All right. How do you think rugby players aged 16 to 19 should be developed? You can come at that from elite or non-elite. I think
it changes depending on like what level they're at. I think they can all improve, so they should be developed in the areas that they need. So I know that they use, London Irish use kind of a development plan. They write down like passing off the left hand, passing off the right hand, kicking from hand, and then they'll assess them out of 10 and put them to like where they are, to where they should be, to where an elite player will be, and they'll look at developing the areas, because they only see the athletes rarely, twice a week. which isn't like a lot because they're only just 2 hours of rugby a week under kind of most of their development programs. Most of them, not all of them. It's kind of down to the schools and everything else to take it forward. So it's developing them in a way that they can improve without overworking them. Like, number one of the issues is obviously like the private schools and the schools playing them hard, and then the club playing them hard, and it's just so it's kind of working with all three of them, but highlighting the areas that they need to improve upon. So if they're physically not big enough, then they have a key emphasis on their gym program. If they're physically big enough, their technique sort of there should be a key emphasis on their technique.
Okay.
It's hard to kind of meet everyone's goal in one session.
So it would be tailored to individuals rather than one size fits all. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's hard to say tailor it to an individual, because obviously one person, if you had 20 athletes and you had to give them all half an hour each, then you've got 10 hours of work there when you only typically getting them for 2 or 5. It has to kind of have the umbrella that there's a target for all.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some element of individual work. So if you've got a group of 5 athletes who physically aren't strong enough, then in the gym you put them together and let them work out of the same area. But if you've got four rugby players who can't tackle very well, let's say like a scrum half wouldn't be able to tackle as well as a winger in open play, then you can group those athletes together, or again you can flip it on its head and group them with the stronger ones. It's just again how you would do it, but it's hard to pinpoint individual in a session, especially as most rugby squads are 20 to 30 people.
Yeah, okay. What you said about the development plan that London Irish use,
Yeah.
with their academy boys,
Yeah.
would you adopt that with college standard players, or would you think that's not appropriate?
I think it's appropriate for all, whether they can pass, run, kick, catch, tackle, sidestep, regardless, they could use it, because you can put the emphasis on what a 10 would be. So if a 10 is an international standard player, the coach might grade himself a 6, but the athletes might grade themselves a 4. It still gives them somewhere to work upon.
Yeah.
If they're using that same plan to put them towards the county level, and then number 10 could be a county level, I think the plan's more of a model that could be picked up and adjusted to where it is. So I think it'd be unfair to put that same model in place, the same level for an elite 16 to 19 year old compared to a kind of a participation 16 to 19 year old, because obviously that a 16 to 19 year old at participation level is going to be like a 1 or a 2, whereas the elite are going to be like 7s or 8s. And obviously, so you could just adopt it. So for our program that we'll be using, we'll probably just say, right, let's put it to county or first team playing level, because it's highly likely that none of them are going to go on to playing professional rugby.
Yeah, all right. What do you believe makes an effective coach-athlete relationship?
I think you have to be respected by the athletes. You do need a lot of knowledge. You need to be able to show them that they can do things and learn in different ways. So if, for example, they turn up to your session and they're not really learning anything, then I typically believe they won't trust you as a coach. Or is it right? Yeah. They won't trust you as a coach. They kind of won't respect you. Like if you ask them to do something, they won't be able to see the point. So if you can develop a player, you can move on, you can make the sessions fun, they can see a benefit of doing what they're doing, then I think the relationship between the two becomes strong. Obviously, like rugby lads 16 to 19, they like to be fun, they like a few jokes, but obviously you need to be professional. It's just meeting that happy medium between all three, really.
All right. Last one.
Yeah.
What do you believe the role of an effective coach is?
So what do you mean by that, mate?
So, as a rugby coach,
yeah,
working with players 16 to 19 at the level that you do, what do you see your role being?
In improving that player, both in the gym and on the pitch. Again, like the program we're going to run is going to be a development program, so they have to improve by the time they leave us.
Yeah.
So I see us as kind of hopefully a stepping stone for the people that come here, the 16 to 19 year olds, so they go on to play rugby at a higher level and continue to play. So you kind of say it's a mix between participation, development and academy level. I think what we've got here is the knowledge of the academy side of things,
Yeah.
but we're applying it to people that aren't at quite that level. So it's developing them to move up, to move forward and progress. So maybe a progressive coach, if you.
Okay. And anything general across coaching in terms of the role that you have?
Say the role I have is a bit different to what a school teacher may have, because obviously like I've got loads of admin to do, so it's kind of getting them all in one place, making sure that they're behaving as well. So a bit more than that, but say just the role of the coach, make sure that everything's safe, it's all fine, they're developing, they're enjoying it, they're enjoying their rugby. You're not turning up and just going, all right, this is just turn up and play session. It's organised and structured as part of a bigger picture to progress them and move them forward.
Right, fantastic.